Glad everyone is here today. How are you, Jody?
I am doing good. Can you hear me, Casey? Okay.
I can.
Cool. All right. So while Casey is getting everything organized, I would love to say welcome. And so thank you so much for joining us at our Ready, Set, Smart webinar today. My name is Jody Bean, and I'm going to be your lovely co-host with Casey Dramatic. We are going to go ahead and get started with this. I guess this really fun. I'm really excited about this one. I don't know why, but maybe it's because I haven't had the opportunity to be with Casey for a while. So yay, Casey.
I know. Yeah. It's so good to be with you again, Jody.
So here we are. So this week's webinar is how to create formative assessment in your classroom. And so Casey's going to take us on a quick journey, whether you are new to Smart Learning Suite Online or if you've been using Smart Learning Suite Online. I guarantee you're going to walk away with some pretty great things from Casey. Casey is coming to us from Texas, and she is a Smart Senior Professional Development Specialist. Go ahead, Casey.
Jody, thank you. So I am excited to be here with you guys to talk about formative assessment. It is near and dear to my heart because I think that in order to truly support your students in the way that they need, we've got to have those check-ins along the way, check-ins that they do personally and check-ins that we help facilitate for them as well. So I'm excited to go on this formative assessment scavenger hunt today of the different things that are available through Smart Learning Suite Online. So today we're here to talk about formative assessment. And I think sometimes formative assessment can get a little murky in the classroom. Sometimes formative assessment sort of becomes summative assessments instead. It becomes about the grade for the kids. And so we really want to think about the purpose of formative assessment. And I think this quote by Paul Black is perfect. When the cook tastes the soup, that's formative assessment. When the customer tastes the soup, that's summative assessment. What do you think about that, Jody?
I absolutely love this quote.
I do too, because to me, it really means, what we want to do in the classroom is we want the formative assessment process to be a place where kids are expecting to make mistakes, expecting to have to switch gears, go in different directions, continue to learn, and that's part of the process. It shouldn't be for them about that grade or being worried about failing or messing up. And sometimes with the best of intentions, our formative assessments sort of give kids the idea that it is a test or a quiz rather than a place where a checking point where those kids can really have the opportunity to figure out where their gaps are and use that to be more successful on that summative assessment. That's what we want to think about, is how to use these tools that SMART has to help our kids really understand that formative assessment is the journey. And that's where we have the opportunity to add different seasoning, do different things, go in different directions to make sure that that soup is worth the customer's money at the end. So Jody, what are some of the ways that you like to use formative assessment in the classroom?
So I was thinking about this because I am always looking for creative ways to do formative assessment, right? So I really want to capitalize on goal setting, self-reflection, and finding out what my students might not be able to find out on a regular test. I really want to give them the autonomy to give me as the teacher some idea and capture what they are they've already learned, like, because as we know, everybody learns differently. So like I love to use like the 3-2-1 formative assessment. I know we can go on and we could probably in the chat come up with 1,000 different ways to do formative assessment, but I love the idea that short, simple polls, opinions, quizzes, using different graphic organizers. Another one I like is kind of the exit slips. Like those are really powerful because that way you can leverage what your students know and you can decide where you're going to pick up the learning and drive the instruction the next time you're going to meet with those students.
I think that's so well said. I think sometimes we forget that those exit tickets, that those self-reflections that students do, those are part and parcel of those are parts of the overall parcel of formative assessment. those steps along the way are going to help the teacher drive instruction and personalize things for their kids to understand where we need to have small groupings and things along those lines. But it's also going to help those students. So I think those were some great examples.
Well, and Casey, also mentioning, we can't forget student engagement and motivation, right? That's really a big thing. And sometimes when our students hear that you're going to do some sort of assessment, they kind of start, going, oh, this is not what I want to do. But if you make it engaging and fun, and, it's going to motivate them to probably bring their best foot forward.
Absolutely. And I think especially if they realize that formative assessments are truly about the journey and not about the destination, I think that really helps kids be more free and comfortable. So just in case you're new, where I am right now is I'm presenting a session, I'm a training file to you. I'm presenting my lesson to you. So I'm going to actually end this lesson because we're going to spend some time learning how to use SMART to create formative assessment opportunities for our students. So for me to end my session, in the top left corner, I have these 3 white horizontal lines. And when I click those lines, one of my options is to end my lesson. So when I hit end lesson, it's going to bring me back to my Smart Learning Suite dashboard. So some of you guys might be button pushers and might want to push some buttons as I'm pushing some buttons today. So if you're that type of person, I know I was always the person pushing. Then I'm going to show you how you can connect with me and push some buttons alongside of me today. If you want to really just kind of watch and take some information in and take some notes, that's great too. So there's 2 ways that you can go about getting connected to Smart Learning Suite online. I am a Google user, and so that is where I started. So if you are a Google user, I'm going to show you right now how you can access Smart Learning Suite online through your Google Drive. If you are not a Google user, you can just pause for a second and I'll get you caught up in just a moment. So I'm going to pop over to my first tab. You can see I have that Google triangle in the top left. That's my Google Drive. When I come in here, what I'm going to do so that I can get to that Smart Learning Suite library that you just saw me in, this library right here, so I can get to this space. Inside of my Google Drive, I'm going to click on New. I'm going to click on More, and I'm going to click on Smart Learning Suite. If you do not see Smart Learning Suite, right underneath that, you will see Connect More Apps, and that will allow you to pop up a window and search for Smart Learning Suite and then choose to add it to your drive. You can see that mine's already installed. If you are not a Google user or do not have Smart Learning Suite under New, More, Google Drive, through your Google Drive, New, More, Smart Learning Suite, if you do not have that, then the next way that you can get to Smart Learning Suite is by going to Suite, S-U-I-T-E, suite.smarttech.com. And Jody will put that information to the chat, suite.smarttech.com. That will also get you to the library, Smart Library that you're seeing here. And this holds all of my different lessons. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of each of the different pieces of our Smart Library. We have a wonderful webinar on getting started with Smart Learning Suite for both every user and for our Google specific users that Jody does one of them, and we have someone else that does the Google version. So if you want some more details, that's a great webinar to join. And we do those on a regular basis, monthly, I think. Is that right, Jody? I think you're on mute.
Next week is getting started with Smart Learning Suite on May 20th.
Perfect.
So join your friends.
We try and have those regularly for all of our users. So what I'm going to focus you guys on today is just the idea of formative assessment. So we're going to spend most of our time using this green button that's our Add Activities button. Okay. So when I click on Add Activities button, there's a whole host of things that come up. This is my dashboard with a lot of different opportunities for me to work through. So I have my getting started. Do I want to start with a YouTube, or do I want to start by importing something I have? Do I want to pull in a game? I have all sorts of choices here. If you're new, I really recommend you taking some time to play and push some buttons at a different time. but we're going to stay focused today on that formative assessment piece. So one thing is, you might be like me, I have a lot of assessments that I've used or created for my students, either in Google Slides or Google Docs or PowerPoints or PDFs that I found that I use with my kids. So I have often a lot of things that I already like to use with my kids. One of the great things is I can pull those pieces into Smart Learning Suite Online, and that's what I'm going to do first. So just like an example, let's say that I am a kindergarten teacher and I'm wanting to assess my students' confidence in being able to recognize capital letters or their lowercase letters or even their letter sounds. I can pull this into Smart Learning Suite Online and add an infinitely cloned object that my kids can pull over when they get something correct. And I can reopen this same lesson 3 times a year or 6 times a year to do different assessments along the way. Or if I'm doing a pre-assessment, something like this with my kids, again, I can have this built and I could just make a copy of it where they do it on paper pencil, but I can also pull this into Smart Learning Suite Online where we can do it digitally. And again, I have the opportunity to add some infinitely cloned objects for my students to reflect on this pre-test to show me how confident they are on their understanding before we've even jumped into this lesson. So these are 2 Google Slides. It could be a PDF, it could be a PowerPoint, anything along those lines. I'm going to come back to my main page, my library, and as a reminder, I clicked on the green Add Activities button, and I'm going to start by importing an assessment I like to do with my kids, a formative assessment I like to use with my kids. So I'm going to click on Import Resource. And my activity happens to live in my Google Drive. I could also have it saved on my computer somewhere. So I'm going to go to Google Drive because that's where mine is. And I'm pretty sure I know where it is. Let's see. It is in here. All right, so I'm going to navigate just like you usually do. I'm going to Formative Assessment because that's where I have it saved. And I want to do stars and stairs with my students. So I'm going to click on this Google slide and I'm going to select it. And just like that, it's going to pull my Google slide into Smart Learning Suite Online where I can make some editing decisions. So when I pull in activities like this, I like to have them set up as basically a template that I can reuse over and over again. So notice here that my learning target space is empty so that I can use this tool, whether I'm teaching math, whether I'm teaching language arts, whatever thing I'm focused on, I can pull it in. So at this point, if you look above with any Google slide or PowerPoint or PDF that you pull in, you can always add some content. So if I look up, that's where I can add. So you'll notice that I have an A for text. So if I click on the A, I can click on any part of my page, and now I can type in what my student's learning target is. So maybe their learning target is to be able to retell a story from beginning to end with important details. I can put what our learning target is. And again, it can change depending on what I'm teaching, right? So if I was teaching about World War II and different causes of World War II, that could be my learning target. I can choose what my learning target is, and it can adjust and change depending what I'm teaching. So I can pull in my learning target here. The other thing that I can do is I can have my students drag and drop to track as they've completed each step along the way of the continuum. So I can add infinitely cloned objects. In this case, I'm going to add a star that my students can drag onto their staircase as they meet different goals along their learning journey. So next to that A, you'll see a mountain. When I click on the mountain, a little window pops up to the left where I can choose to do an Bing online image for images. These are all Creative Commons license and free for us to use. I can add a web link. So if I wanted my kids to have a web site to go to read and learn more about, I could do that. Or I can also upload images as well. So in this case, I know I have a star saved somewhere. So I'm going to go click on select. And here's that star that I already have saved that I want to use. So I'm going to click on it and choose open. I can resize it. It comes in with that blue square around. I can resize by dragging that blue circle in the corner to get it the size that I want. And I can move it onto my page where I want it to live. Now, one of the things I want you to notice, and I really encourage you always to do this, is when you click on any object, make sure you click on that down arrow. It always has some extra choices. So if I click on that, I could delete my star, I could lock it, I could duplicate it, or I can infinitely clone it where I never run out. So if you are creating digital manipulatives, this is going to be a huge tool for you. There's lots of ways I use it. If my students are reading text, I'll have some different objects they can drag and drop as well as they're annotating, maybe a question mark for questions that they have, or a light bulb for those light bulb moments. So at this point, the next thing I want to do is I want my kids to really be in charge of filling out what their I can statements are. If I was teaching younger grades, I might put in the I can statements ahead of time for them. Maybe we work together as a class to come up with those I can statements and I create them. But I can also leave it blank where my students can create their own so that it's naturally differentiated for my students depending on where they are in their journey, so that I can have my students that need to move to the next step. I can work with them to really think about their steps versus students that are struggling a little bit. Maybe they're going to be working on retelling a story using images versus orally versus in writing. So I can make those adjustments depending on my student. When I look down below my page, the other thing that we'll see is the ability to convert our page to a handout or a workspace or to an activity. If I leave it the way it is, only the teacher can work and write on it and manipulate it. I want my kids to reflect, so I'm going to convert to activity. And in this case, I'm going to make this a handout because I want each student to have their own version. So it's like me making 24 copies for my 22 kids, because I always got to have a couple extras. So I'm going to convert that to a handout. Jody, any questions? You're on mute.
We are doing great in the chat, so you're good.
All right. So that's what we talked about just now, is how we can take content that we already have, so a PDF or stuff that we've created or stuff that we found on Future Pay Teachers or any of those types of things, and we can input it into Smart Learning Suite and do a couple of things like add text or add infinitely cloned objects for kids to self-assess or to help them as they're marking their goals along their learning journey. But we have some other tools that are built into Smart Learning Suite Online that I want to talk to as well. Now today, I'm just going to keep building within this same lesson. Ordinarily, if I'm about to do something math related, I would jump out, I'd hit finish editing to get back to my main library and start a new lesson. But for time's sake, I'm just going to stay in the same space. And just so you know, we can pull in things like Google Slides and Google Docs and PowerPoints and PDFs. And then you'll notice in this blue bar down here that when we click that, it brings back our dashboard so we can layer in some other things. So one of the things that I like is that we have some ready-made resources here. So when I look at question reflection, I think, oh, wait, that's probably connected to formative assessment. So are there some things that are already built for me and that I can make some small adjustments to? So when I click on question reflection, you'll notice that you have a few different options. So if you want to do that 3-2-1 that Jody was talking about, so 3 facts, 2 questions, 1 big idea, it's already built for you. You can pull it in and you can customize it. So if you want to change the 3 columns, you can change those. Or doing hey, explain what you've learned today. It's already built for us. I don't have to build it. It's there. I can add to it. I can edit and revise it to personalize it, but it's built for me. One of my favorite tools, though, for formative assessment is something called response. And I know that this how do you feel about the topic question is built in that tool called response. So I want to actually I like my kids to have the ability to share how they're feeling about their learning. So I want to start with this question, but I'm going to layer in some other tools. So I'm going to click on here. And just like that, it's added. So I could be done. That could be all that I want to do is I want to just poll my kids and see how they're feeling. But I can also edit it. So notice here I can click edit, and now I can add some additional questions. So let's say that ordinarily I might give my students a PDF where they would do that they would solve these different problems as their formative assessment or their check-in. I can also take this, I can copy and even paste this into, I'm going to add a question and paste it in here. And the benefits of this is that I can, if I do it this way, and I'm going to change it from a poll opinion to a short answer. And the correct answer should be, I think I said it was 34. Yep, is 34. So I can add that question. I can add another question, and this time I want to do multiple choice. So I'm going to change by clicking the answer type at the top. I'm going to do multiple choice this time. And I'm going to come and grab, let's grab this one here. And I'm going to copy and paste it over here in my question. So again, you can take content you already have and move your stuff over. The benefit of moving it over is a couple of things. That was question 6. So the correct answer is 21. So benefits. Why would I want to do this rather than just, I'm just going to put some random answers here, rather than just give them the paper copy that I already have. I'm going to rotate. Notice that I can move answer questions around. There's 3 little dots that are hard to see in the right corner next to the number, and I can drag down. I want them to share how they're feeling at the end of the question. The benefits is this is going to give me an Excel spreadsheet, and it's going to grade all of my students' work, and I'm going to have a spreadsheet of all of their data, including a heat map for me to understand exactly where they are in their learning process. And then that will help me group students and personalize instruction moving forward as well, which is really, really fantastic. When we, if we hand that paper copy over, you're in charge of grading, which is already taking a lot of time when time is a limited resource for teachers. So this is a time saver. You can add those questions. You can hit next when finished. You can always add in a title or instructions and then hit finish. And just like that, I've created a quick assessment for my students. And again, I'm going to get an Excel spreadsheet of all of their data. So Jody, any questions coming in? Mm-hmm.
Can you show where you find response again?
Yes. So I'm going to click on this blue bar in the bottom left corner. It brings up the same dashboard that we have earlier when we click the green add activities button. And there's actually 2 places. So we have the main response. If you just want to start from scratch with response, you'll notice it under activity templates. It's right here in the middle. It has a yellow check mark. Today, though, I actually went to question and reflection. And I chose this version of response that already has 1 question added, that how do you feel about your learning question. And then I edited it to add more questions. So you can click on either response directly from your main dashboard, or you can start with a response that was already built for you under question and reflection. Other questions, Jody?
And I guess, you know, a lot of them are saying, is this a lot like Google Form, Google Quiz? The best part about response, and Casey, you can add on to this, is that it is embedded inside your Smart Learning Suite Online lesson. So it's in your workflow. So when it's time for you to, you know, start the Smart Learning Suite Online, you don't have to go out. You don't have to go find your Google form. It literally is right there, ready for you to just click and start with your students. And Casey's going to show you how your students connect to it, and it's pretty simple to do.
Yeah, and I would definitely, I mean, if you have some great Google Forms already built, I would definitely keep those. No reason to throw those out there. Google Forms is a great tool. But like Jody said, this response tool has some things that I really like about it that we'll take a minute to show you guys. I think that from the student perspective, so you can see that one of those, I'm going to go in really quickly. And with short answer, you can actually get a word cloud built as well. So I'll just add a question to show a word cloud really quickly. The poll opinion piece is great too, because you will see a graph in real time as students are answering. I'll add a question. Let's do, what is your favorite subject? And we'll just add, we'll have that an open answer. There's no wrong answers to that question so that you can see that in real time as well. All right, so I'm going to quickly show you one other thing, and then because I know we're running short on time and I do want you to see that student perspective from response. But with that blue bar, I wanted to point out a couple of things. One is graphic organizers. These graphic organizers are a great way to build in formative assessment for your kids. So if I click on here, we have like 21 different ones, and you can personalize any of those. So if I wanted to do content mapping, like maybe I wanted my students to do figurative language and have to share what they know about 4 different examples of figurative language. Or maybe I want them to do a Venn diagram comparing and contrasting 2 battles from a particular war. There's so many different ways I can use this tool, these tools with my students, and I can customize them. I can change the text. So for instance, if you see story map and maybe you are a social studies teacher, you can still use that story map. Just change the text. Maybe you guys are going to be researching a particular person from history or something along those lines. You can change what the students are doing in each of those sections. So don't let anything keep you, like if you see scientific method, that doesn't mean it has to be scientific method. You can change that and use it however you want. So the last thing I wanted to show you really quickly before I show the student experience is the new page piece. So new page is a great way. I think that there's a lot of power in a blank page, giving our kids room to work. So my daughter is a senior in high school this year, and every single time she comes home from her quiz, she says, my teacher didn't ask me the questions that I knew or didn't give me the chance to tell them what I knew. So I love when teachers, especially for formative assessment, say something like this: share what you have learned or what you know. So we can take this type of tool, give it to them. I can even say something like use pictures and words to explain or to create a mind map or what have you. So we can add these pieces to our work. And again, I would want to convert that to a handout or a workspace. In this case, if maybe I want my kids to work in teams to show everything they've learned, I could make it a workspace. Or if I want that kids to work and just show personally what they know, I can make it a handout. So there's really easy ways for us to check in with our students. So really quickly, I'm going to hit finish editing. When I hit finish editing, it takes me back to my main dashboard. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a student version and a teacher version so we can see both. I'm going to click on a new incognito window so I can show side by side. If you want to join me, you can as well. What you will do is you will go to hellosmart.com, like I am doing, hellosmart.com. You will join me as a guest if you want the student experience. Just join as a guest. You're not going to be in my class permanently. And you'll enter my class ID, which is 11311. And you'll hit next. And you'll go ahead and enter your name and join as a guest. At this point, I don't have a lesson open for my students, so it's going to tell me I'm waiting. It's waiting for your teacher to start the lesson. But as soon as I hit start, it's going to start for my students as well, just like so. So we're going to focus on that response because I know there were some questions around that. One thing to know about response is it does require the teacher to hit start. So think about that. Sometimes when we're doing an assessment, it is very structured, right? We're starting it, we're having a set time, kids can work on it, things along those lines. If you're doing something like that, like with the response, you're going to want your kids to go to hellosmart.com. With you, you're going to hit start for class. As soon as you hit start for class, then for the student side, it will show you the questions and you can start to fill in what the questions are. I'm not even looking at the problems. and I can arrow over to see if I get the questions right. Notice on the teacher side, I can see that 40% of the questions have been answered. I'm going to put, I'm still confused because I'm thinking I got some wrong because I was just guessing. And then I can hit that arrow as a student again. I can double check my work before I choose submit all answers. And notice as a student, I get another chance to cancel. So I'm going to hit submit. Your kids will know. So on my side, it says great job. On the teacher side, I can choose show questions. I can talk about the questions in real time. If this was a poll opinion where we weren't worried about right or wrong answers, I could also show live results in both a bar graph or a pie graph. I can arrow through those as well. Kind of 50-50 there. Oh, 75 and 25% there. And then I can see how we're feeling. 50% of us are like, have some questions, but we're doing all right. And then we're split between whether do we get this or not get this. So when I hit end activity as a teacher and I hit end and review, on the student side, I'm going to see exactly how I did. So if it's green, I got it right. Well, look at me. I did good on my guessing. So if it's green, I got it right. If I arrow through, I can even see over here, oh, I got 100%. So instantly as a student, I know how I did on this assessment. And then the other thing as a teacher, notice that you have a button that says export results. So when I click export results, it's going to automatically make a spreadsheet in my downloads folder that I can open and look at student results and see how they did. And it will be a heat map so I can assess with the students and I can assess my questions as well. So it'll open in just a second so we can take a quick look. So here I can see all my students. I can see Sarah, good job at 100%. I can see the number correct, the number incorrect, whether they skipped any or didn't respond. And I can look at a heat map so I can look horizontally to see how kids did, but I can also look vertically to see how I did. So if I'm looking at G and H, I notice that 50% of my kids got those right. So that tells me that maybe I need to do some reteaching in my classroom because somewhere they've gotten confused. And so I need to kind of address those things. And I have the activity results. The next tab over actually has my questions, the type of question, and it has all of the answer choices. And highlighted in green are the correct answers. So I have that to pull from if I need to have a conference with a student or if I need to have an RTI meeting or anything along those lines. Questions?
So one more time, Casey. Yes. Is the question came up, can you leave response to work asynchronously?
So you can't leave it to work, like you can leave it open. So what I could do is I could start it and I could leave it open on my computer for kids to finish. But I do have to hit start as a teacher first in order for them to do it. So I can't just send, say, a student share link in a learning management system because I, as a teacher, have to hit start. So if there's going to be something along the lines that you want to do response for, it is going to require you to start it for your kids and end it.
Mm-hmm. I used to use it when I had small groups and I would get it started. And let's say they were going to do a review on chapter 13 of the book and I had different groups coming in rotation. I would just start my response. And then as my students would go into that rotation, they would log in to their Hello Smart. And then I just kept it running throughout my rotation. So you can do it in small groups too. You as a teacher just have to start it.
Yeah. Other questions that have come in.
Another question is like the instant analysis that you see as the feedback. Is it the same for teacher and student? So you can see on Casey's screen that on the right-hand side, you have the student And then on the left-hand side, you have the teacher. Now, there are times, if you agree, Casey, that, you know what, I want it for my eyes only, so I'm not going to project it. Like if you had a smart board and you had, you know, your computer connected to it, you probably don't want all the results up there at the same time. I mean, you might just want it for your eyes only so you can decide, but your students are going to see just their results.
Yes, the students see their individual results, how they personally did. When the teacher's looking at it, she's seeing how the class did as a whole. So she's going to see a bar graph and be able to analyze how the kids did as a whole versus the students are seeing their personal data. And again, Jody's right. Sometimes we want to have this up and we want to go over things with our students, but other times we may never show them the teacher side of things because we want just to get their assessment and see how they did. Other questions?
I think we're good, Casey.
All right. So one other thing, in case you're new here today, we also have, like we said, this is an example of something I could do as a formative assessment as well. This is taking a graphic organizer and adding to it. Here's an example of that same one where we could just fill in everything that we think we know using a blank page, something along those lines. I can convert any of these. This one I need to convert on the fly to a handout, and my students can fill in by hitting start. And they will have different tools here. So if I wanted to do something on formative assessment and everything I learned today, I can take that and maybe I'm going to make my own little mind map here. I can take this, I can hit start as a student. I have all these different tools here. So if I wanted to draw a little circle around there, I could. And maybe I want to pull out different things. I can do that. And if the teacher clicks on my name, she's going to see what I'm doing in real time and be able to give me feedback as well. So I can come in and check to see what Jody's up to and notice that she used images as well, because one of the tools is this little mountain where she can add images. So we have that ability to add and check in on our different students along the way and get student insight into their learning also. All right, so we're at the end of our time today, unless any other questions pop up. So I'm going to end this session really quickly and take you guys back into our original presentation. If you guys are in Hello Smart, this is going to open for you automatically. So it'll pull you into this new session, this new file. And what I want to share, Jody's going to share a link to this in the chat as well, but we have a variety of resources that help you guys get started. And so she will put this bit.ly link inside of the chat, and so that you can use that to navigate as you're continuing your journey. We have a great getting started website to help you. We have these weekly webinars as well. So I really recommend that you guys make use of those resources. And the other thing is, we'd love to see you guys try something you learned today. Try importing content you have, like a rubric or an assessment that you've already built, and maybe add an infinitely cloned object to it, or maybe even a goal setting activity. Try using a response and see how it works with your students. It could be something simple like doing like a hold up or a thumbs up, thumbs down, or something along those lines, or you can use it as more of a check-in like I did, where we actually have questions that you're wanting your kids to do. And then the other thing I encourage you to do is explore those graphic organizers and think about how you can personalize those to create those experiences for your kids as well, those formative assessment pieces.
There was a question, and feel free to put it back in the chat if I don't say it right. I just want to make sure we address it, that they're very new to Smart Learning Suite Online, and they're trying to understand how students can access material for synchronous and asynchronous learning. Can you?
Great question, Jody. Yes. So let's talk about that, because that's a very good question, and I kind of brushed over it fairly quickly. So there's two ways that we can have our students join. If you're going to want your students to do anything with you, so even the smallest bit of synchronous learning, maybe you're going to want to do a 5-minute mini lesson or a 10-minute, brief direct instruction. If you're going to want to do anything with your students live, what you're going to want them to do, what you're going to want students to do is you're going to want them to go to hellosmart.com like I did when I had my student experience up over here. You're going to want them to go to hellosmart.com and you would really want them to sign in. I joined myself as a guest today. The reason you would want them to sign in with their credentials is if they accidentally close their tab, their device dies, they don't finish their work and need to finish it later, then all of their work is saved to their account, to them personally, so that when they sign back in, they can go and continue working on anything that they had previously started. So if you want to do anything synchronously, whether it's 2 minutes of synchronous learning or 30 minutes of synchronous learning, your students are going to go to hellosmart.com. If you want to share a lesson with your students asynchronously, meaning you want them to have control, maybe you're doing a flipped classroom model, maybe it's a homework assignment, maybe it's just something for them to review before an upcoming assessment, or maybe it's a center or a station and you're working in small groups with another group of students and they should just be going in and getting started on this station. What you're going to do is in any lesson, you can click, there's 2 ways you can do this. One is I can click these 3 white lines, and one of my options is share. So when I click on share, I can share with a teacher, or notice at the bottom, I can share with students. This link, as soon as you share this link on a learning management system, so Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, whatever tool you're using, or
Seesaw. There's a lot of Canadians that might be using Brightspace too.
Brightspace, anything that you're doing, or even if you want to put it on a QR code, or if your kids have access to iPads, or if you put it on a hyperdoc, or anywhere you want it to live, you're going to copy this link, and you will place that for your students to access. So I'll just show you really quickly what that looks like. I'm going to end this lesson. So let's say I wanted my students to do this formative assessment by themselves. I can click on these 3 dots and also get the share link button. So 2 ways I can do it with the lesson open by clicking the 3 white lines, or when I'm looking at my library, I can click on these 3 dots, share link, the same window pops open. I'm going to click copy. And what your students will see, let me be a student again. What your students will see when they click on here is they're going to see a window that says sign in to open your lesson. So your students would click sign in to open, and they're going to sign in either with their Google or their Microsoft information to participate. And then they can work independently, but what is really great is you can check in their work at any time. So when you open this lesson, when you as a teacher hit start, you'll be able to see all of your student work, no matter whether it's the next day, a week later, in real time, any of the above.
Great. And I don't see any more questions, but if there's any more, please let us know. Okay, well, and if we didn't answer your question, I have put our email addresses in the chat again. Please reach out to Casey or myself, and we'll definitely look forward to that. Expect the recording probably I'm going to say hopefully by Friday. We do our best at making sure that those are going. Again, you can email Casey or myself, and we'll do that and get that email to you as soon as possible.
And Jen, I just want to point out, I know this is on our resources that you already shared with them, but just note inside of Smart Learning Suite Online, when you're in there, one of the buttons is your training button, and this is a lifesaver, guys. When you click here on that training button, first of all, it allows you to get to the webinars. They're right there. But if you slide down, it has a quick video or a learn how to guide for every different piece. So if you're trying to remember, hey, how do I share with my students? Here it is. You can watch it, or you can click to learn how. So inside of your Smart Learning Suite account, we made sure that training button's always there ready for you to access it so that you're not left in the dark. But of course, please reach out to Jody and I. That's what we're here for as well. But I just wanted to point that out because those are really good self-help pieces as well.
Awesome. All right, I think that we are coming to the end. Thank you, Casey, so much for that awesome presentation.
It was nice to have you guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and look forward to working with you guys and learning more with you in the future.
Thanks for joining.